One of the most memorable pay-per-views of all time. When ECW closed its doors in January 2001, a reunion officially made by the big guys always seemed unlikely. It was never going to capture the full ECW experience because everyone else was in the WWF or WWE. It needed to be perfect for it to go down. Ever since the beginning of the promotion, ECW had a lot of respect from the WWF. It was in some ways like a little brother for the company. And this also involved money, with WWF giving them something every month to keep the company around when it struggled. A couple of years later, there was no mention of ECW around. Whatever was left of the company was the talent doing well in WWE. However, the company wanted to release a DVD about the former promotion, and the production of this DVD was called The Rise and Fall of ECW. It was a very eye-opening documentary on the promotion and also reimagined the way WWE made their DVDs. Beforehand, most of their DVDs were in kayfabe with some semblance of realism, but it wasn't as open as it was with this DVD, and that continued on after the success of the DVD. The Rise and Fall of ECW is the best-selling WWE DVD of all time at one point, and there was talks of a return for ECW. Paul Heyman and RVD were down for this. A big proponent of this was Vince McMahon, and there was clearly money with this, but also the fact that ECW never got a proper send-off as opposed to WCW. But it was mostly about money first, money second, ECW third. Okay, with that said, ECW One Night Stand was held in the Hammerstein Ballroom on June 12, 2005. ECW One Night Stand did about 300,000 buy rates, which is very impressive for a standalone show. A show that didn't have much storyline progression to it, if any. The show kicked off with Joey Styles being introduced. The crowd was already going insane and absolutely rabid. It was basically ECW copied and pasted in the year of 2005. That's what makes this event so good. It's the fact that it felt like an ECW event if it were to happen in 2005. He said his iconic quote, "Oh my god," and welcomed everyone to ECW One Night Stand. The crowd was chanting ECW with more passion than just about everyone you'll see. He brought out Mick Foley. Flashback to Foley, he spent time in the Extreme promotion for a short time, and there was a natural feeling with this show that almost never happened again. It was an incredible experience and definitely once in a lifetime in the world of wrestling. It's incomparable. Alright, the first match in the show was between Lance Storm and Lionheart Chris Jericho. Storm came out with Dawn Marie, reminiscent of the old days with Storm reprising his role from the late 90s as one of the members of the Impact Players. Lionheart was playing his role from 1995. These two were former partners back in their days in Kentucky, best friends in the industry, so this was going to be a fun one. Both men showed great knowledge of each other early on. It was pure pro wrestling and something that ECW should be known for more. It's known if you watch the shows, but the essence of the company is reduced to just violence and controversy. Off the ropes, Jericho finally hit something big with a dropkick and a baseball slide. Lionheart was becoming more urgent and messed up, bumping into the rail. Off the ropes, Lance Storm catches Jericho with a beautiful dropkick. Absolutely amazing. One of the very best dropkicks you'll see. The laid vertical suplex gives Storm a 2 count and he quickly takes control. That didn't last too long, and playing it safe was much better for him because Jericho ended up catching him with a dropkick to the back off the ropes. He connected with an enziguri and they reversed holds until Jericho catched him with a roll-up. Storm follows up and takes a reverse suplex. Both men knew each other very well and it often led to these reversals. Pile driver wasn't to be, but Storm rebounded with a dropkick that almost got him the win. Jericho follows up with an elbow from the top and the crowd was really enjoying the match. Off the ropes, Jericho walks into a single leg crab and Storm had it locked in tight. He escaped, tried the walls, and when it didn't work, managed to overcome him and lock it in. Storm was tapping, but the ref was distracted. Justin and Jason come in to help their guys Storm Jericho with the roll, but once Storm kicked out, boom! They blasted him with a kendo stick. 1, 2, 3. Great match. That shot was brutal. It was ridiculous. Crazy ass shot. With that said, I like this one. It was very tight and there's nothing to complain about. It was a basic wrestling match, but it didn't need to be anything more. Very smooth. You wouldn't expect anything less from these two. The big story is that Storm stole the match from his best friend despite it being his last match. You know, Storm didn't want to go out with honor. He just cared about getting the W. The Pitbull Gary Wolf honored a bunch of ECW icons that passed away throughout the years. The wrestling industry has seen many tragedies throughout the years, but with ECW, it feels like there was a lot more with it, especially in the short time that it lasted. It's very unfortunate. The next match was a three-way dance. Tajiri faced Little Guido and Super Crazy. They were going international with this one. With that said, this match was exciting. Everyone shined. Super Crazy was hitting backflips and drop kicks, baseball slides. Tony had to interfere to give Little Guido an opening to hit the Sicilian slice, and even then Super Crazy sent him into the crowd where the fans were going crazy again. Super Crazy ended up hitting a moonsault off the top of the support onto the FBI, all while Joey Styles shouted, "Ay Dios mío." Back in the ring, Tajiri went for the tarantula, but it didn't work. The FBI returned and everyone got involved. They were dropping each other. Big Guido tried to interfere, but this only opened way for Tajiri to spit the green mist, leading to Little Guido's elimination after Whipwreck hit a cutter from the top rope. So now it was 1-on-1. Vertical suplex doesn't work for Tajiri, which leads to a big slam and almost a hat trick of moonsaults on the first and second rope. Mikey Whipwreck gets involved, but it doesn't lead to anything because Super Crazy ducked a buzzsaw leading to a slam and the third moonsault for Super Crazy to win the match. This was very fun and showed the level of versatility that ECW ECW had back in the day. It was basically the 1999 and 2000 matches involving these three, and they did it perfectly. The spots with the others were well done and gave everyone a moment to shine. The next match was between Psychosis and Rey Mysterio Jr. These two had some amazing matches in ECW, some of the very best matches the promotion had ever seen. Nice lucha libre early on, arm drag off the corner and off a lift. Rey goes for the victory roll, which almost got him the victory. Rey went for a springboard, but got caught and planted right onto the mat. He went to work on that back and started going for more power moves in an effort to wear down Rey. The fans were pissed for some reason. The commentary felt that it was because Psychosis wasn't wearing the mask. They booed the sleeper hold, which makes sense because they were going away from the style that these two perfected a while ago, you know? Like, there's none of this rest hold traditional wrestling with Rey Mysterio and Psychosis, none of that. These guys were jumping around, hitting crazy ass springboards and all that. Psychosis was more aggressive and on the attack. He managed to turn things around with a psycho guillotine. They loved it, but it didn't give him the win. Rey picked up the pace, leading to Psychosis becoming more confident and paying the price right when he tried to match him on the pace. Rey was starting to counter more and gain control of the match. Psychosis' game plan wasn't working anymore, and he bumped into the post and fell into the crowd, leading to Rey hitting a seated senton, all while the crowd chanted ECW. This is a weird match. It deviated away from their style for the most part, but also did something different. Rey hit a dropkick from the back and hit a 619 and the West Coast pop. 1, 2, 3. Decent match. I think people expected them to match their old matches, which was never going to happen. As good as Rey was in 2005, he was starting to slow down here, and it was him starting to change his style a bit. Psychosis, he wasn't even around in wrestling as often as he did in the past. It was never going to be that type of match. The crowd was a bit upset even though they knew this wasn't a bad match. The WWE guys came in all while the fans booed. They were the SmackDown Crusaders and they were getting booed. They didn't like them at all. The crowd chanted, "You suck dick. Fuck you" to SmackDown. JBL was enjoying everything. It was like a holiday of heat for him. Joel Gertner returned and ended up getting treated like a joke, which, let's be honest, it was bound to happen. JBL almost threw him off the balcony. Kurt Angle grabbed the mic. The crowd was shouting a lot of things, and he's like, "Your mother taught me that." He called the ECW fans the lowest form of scum, which is ironic. And if you're like, why am I saying it's ironic? Because people have the same sentiment towards wrestling fans, so it's funny. And said that the ECW wrestlers are going to have problems. JBL said that he sells out Madison Square Garden and made a joke out of the fans. He said that they're internet nerds. Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. The crowd were chanting that towards them. He trashed the fans and said they love ECW because they can easily represent it. All they have to do is hurt themselves and just hop in the ring and show no skill. He was calling them a lot of things when Rob Van Dam came out. RVD was back with Bill Alfonso and the whistle. JBL was pissed and all he could do is shout while Van Dam was being embraced by the fans. He was injured, but this wasn't going to take away the spirit of ECW from him. He told JBL that the fans had enough of him shoving down their throats nonsense while they're trying to watch wrestling. RVD straight up said that he didn't have some creative genius writing his script and said that he's going back to a time where his vocabulary wasn't limited to whatever and cool. A time where the fans chanted his name throughout the shows from the beginning until the end. He was going to make sure the fans got a show and called himself the whole fucking show. That's what it was. The fans chanted his name and he was thankful. He mentioned how he was the one that helped bring this ECW show, a night where they just go out there and wrestle. No storyline, just a night where they could show what they're about. And he couldn't wait when he heard that the show was on. But then he had to get the knee surgery and Van Dam was emotional. It was worse than missing the Japan tour, the European tour, Booker T's wedding, and WrestleMania. He would pass all of that because he is ECW. All of a sudden, Rhino came in with a gore and went after the knee. The lights go out and it's Sabu. And just like ECW ended, it began with an impromptu match. Rhino versus Sabu. Collar and elbow tie up off the ropes. Rhino bumps into Sabu. He caught him with a belly-to-belly suplex. Sabu bounced back and dropped him with a steel chair baseball slide. He jumped off the top rope and ran onto Rhino, who was far out. Sabu basically hurt himself, but even then showed how fearless he was in the face of adversity. He rebounded with a springboard lariat for a near fall. He jumped off the steel chair onto Rhino and continued with a leg drop off the chair. He was going for the triple jump moonsault when Rhino stopped him right onto that chair. He dropped him face first off the chair, reverse powerbomb into the turnbuckle, and he tried going for the gore, but ended up dropping the referee. He followed up with a pile driver, but this is when RVD came in with a steel chair. Van Dam was injured, but even then it didn't matter to him. His passion was ECW, and he was going to make sure that he made his mark on the show, even if he was hurt. Things went from bad to worse with Sabu landing a chair right through the table. 1, 2, 3. Good match. It was probably the most exciting up to this point. RVD's shoot promo was one of the best in his career. Something he could be proud of because even though it wasn't memorable for the words, it was memorable for the heart and passion he showed for his old promotion. He had so much love for ECW. I've never seen him cut a promo like this before or since then. It was wonderful and showed that you didn't need buzzwords or a lot of outsider terms to have a memorable promo. Did RVD mention some things outside? Yeah, but they weren't the main point of this promo. It was to show his love for ECW. As for the match, I had the crowd very interested. I personally liked it more than the other matches because it was more of that prime ECW that the fans remember. Although there was some other matches that did that better. Al Snow was going crazy with Head trying to remember some of the best moments from ECW. The next match was between Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. These two shared plenty of classics throughout the years, unlike the previous ones. This was much different. It was the first time they faced off in ECW. Similar to last Storm and Chris Jericho, these two knew each other well. Joey Styles hyped up this match to the point where you think maybe it's going to be a classic because it had all of the tools to be just that. Eddie was still in it. He had a great match with Rey Mysterio a couple of weeks earlier. Chris Benoit during this time period was always putting on memorable matches. Eddie didn't want to trade holds. He was more aggressive instead of having a classic. Benoit took notice of this and returned the favor. Benoit dropped him the backdrop, bouncing Eddie off the mat, and he was bleeding from his nose. Snap mare lateral press, and he quickly went to working on wearing down the Rabid Wolverine. The fans were still focused on Bischoff on the outside, whereas Benoit was trying to fight his way out of the headlock. He went to the outside where Guerrero used the chair on Benoit. Back in the ring, Eddie hit the superplex. It was rough, and the fans were respectful of these two. Eddie went for the frog splash, but it didn't work. He took too long in preparing the move, and so Benoit took advantage. Once they recovered, Benoit went for chops and started to get aggressive. He hit a clothesline and a Northern Lights suplex for a near fall. He returned the favor with a superplex off the top for a 2 count. Benoit went for the German suplexes, and Eddie was desperate to avoid more, but it didn't work. He was unable to counter, and so the momentum was with the Rabid Wolverine. The commentary called the headbutt the suicide headbutt, and it almost got him the win. Eddie was trying to get away from the crossface, but Benoit got him. The fans were chanting his name and trying to rally him on, but he tapped out to give Chris Benoit the win. Solid match. It was just going through the motions for Eddie Guerrero. Not much special from him. This is at a point where he was starting to slow down, and there was even one point where he told Benoit that he owes him one. That's the big problem. Benoit was looking for a classic, but this wasn't to be. That's what it was. Eddie was very upset with this match, I believe. There was reports at the time that he had a problem with it. He actually had a moment with Chris Benoit, although that might not be true, who knows. But other than that, it wasn't going to be that classic. I think if this happened a year earlier, it would have been a classic, but here it just wasn't going to be because Eddie wasn't really into it on this night. He was clearly more than capable at the time because he had a great match with Rey Mysterio only 10 days later. Like after this event, 10 days later, he had a great match with Rey Mysterio. So it wasn't a matter of him like falling off or whatever. It was just something off on this night. Alright, Joel Gertner came back only to show for Eric Bischoff who wasn't having it. He was begging for a job and Bischoff was looking at him like he's a scrub. He called him a scam, a wannabe, and a piece of garbage like the fans. Similar to JBL, he's seen himself as above the fans at the show. The next match was between Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka. It's funny that Mike Awesome was back at an ECW event, seeing the way he left. He was the company's worst enemy, and the sentiment was not gone 5 years later. Joey Styles showed that on commentary. He was battling it out with Tanaka, he hit him with chops, and all of a sudden hit a suicide dive, and Styles was like, it's a shame that he didn't succeed in taking his own life. Oh my god. Damn. He overpowered Tanaka and dropped him through the table. It was a brutal spot. He went for the splash back in the ring. He failed to go for that powerbomb his first attempt, but it worked the second time. They grabbed chairs, tried to knock down each other, but instead Awesome blasted him 3 times with a chair. He still kicked out and even hit a tornado DDT from the corner. He followed up with a chair from the top, but even then it wasn't enough. The fans were chanting ECW, and back in the ring, Awesome threw him with a German suplex before catching him with a spear. A brutal chair shot from the top. Tanaka was still in the match and even had a DDT from the top through the table. These guys are going all out and showing great resiliency. Then Awesome slammed him through a table, hit a suicide dive again to win the match. This was crazy. It's ECW in a nutshell. I think people remember these type of matches most. The brutal matches with constant spots and craziness. This one was ridiculous. I think this was one of Mike Awesome's best matches and showed his true ability. A guy that could wrestle like a lightweight. It's something that not many wrestlers had back then. That size and speed coupled with the ability to hit these kind of spots and have the stamina to do so. He Awesome bombed the referee after this match, but man, these two put on a show. Incredible action. Short match, but they made the most out of the time. It's one of the best pay-per-view matches under 10 minutes. Definitely top 5. They didn't waste any time and looked like warriors out there showing great resiliency. This was once again one of those matches you had no problem with. It served its purpose and it was perfect in what it wanted to do. One of the most memorable random matches, I'd say. It's not random in the sense of their history, but for a match that happened in 2005, it definitely is. The commentary is extremely hostile towards Mike Awesome. It's expected because of the sentiment shared from the time he left ECW. It was obviously a logical decision for him, but it was spun into a story where he was a traitor and a backstabber. That's not the story. Plus, wasn't it punishment enough that he began that 70s guy in WCW afterwards? Paul Heyman came out and showed a lot of emotion. His dream was back for one night, and the special thing about this show is that it felt like an ECW show if it happened in 2005. Nothing about it felt like WWE other than the theme songs. The fans praised him a lot and chanted ECW. He was in tears but said that it was because he was smoking a joint with Van Dam. He thanked Todd Gordon, the former owner of ECW, for the chance to give him the book, and he was thankful for everyone and said that the fans are the craziest people he knew. Then he turned his sights towards Eric Bischoff and the WWE guys. He couldn't wait for this moment and told them that he's in their house. Oh, wait a minute. Hydra Wives, it's Edge. You screwed Matt Chance Intensify. He was enjoying this, but Paul Heyman told him that while nobody under a script has the balls to tell him this, and it was 2 words. Matt freaking Hardy. I love that. Is it 2 words? No. Impact? Yes. JBL was next. He told him that the only reason he was WWE champion for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays. Damn, that was good. I love this promo. He told everyone that this isn't Raw or SmackDown. It isn't even WWE. It's ECW. What a promo. This is one of the best promos, if not the best from that year. Name a promo from that year that was better than this one. How many are you going to name? So much passion from Paul Heyman, an underdog going up against the big bad boys of World Wrestling Entertainment. He shot hard in a time where WWE was very lenient. These shoot promos weren't really happening a lot. I don't think they were happening at all because they didn't need to. That couldn't be said for this night in New York. ECW was more about blurring the lines between story and reality. That's what they knew best, and it showed here with Paul Heyman hitting them where it hurts most. Incredible scenes. He's as carny as they come, but he has a special thing about him that separates him from others. He felt more real and more rugged as opposed to the corporate giants of WWE and WCW. I think because people saw Paul Heyman as someone who was more grounded in reality with them. Yeah, he wanted to make money, but it felt like he didn't want to lose his identity or the identity of the promotion itself. And the main event, the Dudley Boys faced Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. This was Extreme Rules with a big emphasis on the word extreme. The Dudleys weren't really on WWE TV at the time. They somewhat left the company at the time because they accomplished everything they needed to and felt overexposed. Dreamer and Sandman had an incredible feud early on in ECW, but they grew to respect each other and find common ground. This was as good as the ECW main event they could do. The only guy that was missing was Raven. Maybe Terry Funk, Shane Douglas, and Taz could have gotten involved in some way. It doesn't show here, but Sandman entered to the song by Metallica called Enter Sandman. It was an incredible entrance that was dubbed over on the network. There was love from the guys in the ring. All of this was about the spirit of ECW. The Blue World Order interrupted, and at this point, you knew that this was going to be a main event that was going to be wild. The Blue Meanie, Stevie Richards, and Nova. Stevie cut a promo about them being here and taking over when all of a sudden he super kicked the Sandman. Kid Cash came out. Balls Mahoney followed up along with Axel Rotten. They dropped the heels, blasted Nova with a steel chair, and Styles said that was more painful than being Simon Dean. They were brawling when Kid Cash died over the top rope. Those guys brawled to the back, whereas the other guys finally had the match. Belly to back suplex from Bubba, brutal shot with a side, and then he brought out the cheese grater. He was cutting through his skin, and Dreamer was bleeding profusely. They double teamed him before the Sandman came in. Helicopter back to the cheese grater. Sandman with a drop toe hold on Devon in the ring, whereas Dreamer was doing anything. The commentary mentioned that these guys love each other like brothers, and Dreamer was slammed onto a guardrail, and Sandman hit a senton bomb on a ladder. These chair shots were brutal. Bubba destroyed the Sandman with a chair like he was his biggest rival. Frog splash on the ladder, and their woes only continued. Dreamer was hurt on the outside. His partner was getting double teamed, and even then the Sandman found his way back in it. They locked the Dudleys in the figure four when Just Incredible and Lance Storm came in and dropped the Sandman onto the barbed wire. The Impact players were dominating. Francine came in before Beulah made the save. Joey Styles was going crazy. Beulah embraced with Dreamer, and the couple even dropped the Dudleys with a DDT. Sandman and Dreamer were making a joke out of them, but they quickly turned things around and it got brutal. Powerbomb through the table. 1, 2, no. They were bringing it. The Dudleys hit a 3D and brought out another table. Their brother Spike came in and they set a table on fire and powerbombed Dreamer through it. 1, 2, 3. What a match. They wanted to do something to Beulah when Sandman dropped him with the cane. He was shouting for a beer, and Steve Austin came out. Austin told him he saw how he drinks beer, he needs a case. Austin called for the ECW roster to come out so they could have a beer bash. The WWE guys watched on in contempt and hatred. This whole show was everything they hated and disliked. This wasn't the only reason Austin wanted them here. He wanted to see a fight. The whole week he heard Eric Bischoff, JBL, Kurt Angle talk nonsense, and he called them out. Austin told Angle to pull that finger out his ass, and he said that he was going to count from 10 to 1, or he was going to go up there and slap the piss out of them. They were here. They were in the ring when all of a sudden Taz came out and Angle was ready. So earlier that week, Taz wanted to be a part of ECW One Night Stand. Angle was pissed. He got angry about this, assaulted him. He left him laying. That's what happened. The brawl was on. WWE versus ECW. Angle was choked out by Taz on the outside, and inside, the Blue Meanie took a brutal shot from JBL. They were overpowered and backed off. There was still one more thing to deal with. Eric Bischoff. The WWE guys couldn't be bothered to deal with him, and he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. The Dudleys hit him with a 3D, Benoit the headbutt, Ray with the 619. He dealt with a lot of stuff, and Austin still wanted his thoughts. He said, fuck ECW. Austin ended up dropping him with a stunner, and the Dudleys ended up throwing him out of the building. What a show. Joey Styles, he wished time stood still for that moment, and that was the most real thing he said during the show. I believed him when he said it. There was a perfect spirit and presence of ECW on this night. It was never going to be replicated again. A tribute main event that saw plenty of violence and crazy spots, and ending with Eric Bischoff getting his comeuppance after years and a celebration of a fallen promotion. The match was wild. It was what you expected it to be, and that's what it was throughout the show. Almost every match happened the way they should have. ECW One Night Stand was not meant to pop a buy rate. It was not meant to be a classic event in the sense of, oh, maybe it could be show of the year. It was always going to be a show to remember and honor the promotion ECW. And even though it wasn't their goal to put on the best show of the year, it turned out to be one of, if not the very best shows of the year. Great stuff. What makes this event so good is that WWE just gave ECW their all. You often wonder, like, what if they did a WCW show? It really makes sense to do a WCW show and honor them like they did with ECW, but it's unfortunate that that never happened. They saw WCW as rivals and probably gave up after the invasion, so yeah. Other than that, this show was legendary. It's iconic. It had a certain realness to it that not many shows have. I think that's the reason why people love us so much to this very day. I haven't watched it in 10 years. I used to watch the show so much as a kid. I don't know why I watched it as a kid, but I used to watch it a lot. Watching it again here, it really brought out a lot of memories, and it's still one of the very best shows I've ever watched. So yeah. Match of the night is probably going to be the main event. Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka does give it a fight, but I'm going to go with the main event. Other than that, though, this was a show to watch. One of the very best shows in wrestling history. And if you've never watched it before, what the hell are you waiting for? Go watch it. One of the best shows of all time. So yeah. Alright, what you guys think of ECW One Night Stand? Please comment down below, and that's it for us anyway. Make sure you hit the Dreamer bomb on the like button and perhaps a 3D on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.